Hey guys, it's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. Hockey season is in full swing, and if you're struggling, if you need a refresher, we've got you covered with one of our best experts from picksandparlays.net, Scott Rickenbach, the top hockey capper for all of last season on picksandparlays.net. So we're here to break down some money line betting strategies that can hopefully win you some money. Scott, where is a good starting place for people wanting to bet on hockey?
Well, it's funny because similar to other sports that we look at, like football as an example, where you've got a real concern with the quarterback and always want to be aware of, who's in there at quarterback for these teams. And in baseball, we talk about starting pitching a lot. Of course, bullpen's important as well, and overall the lineups. But the thing is, you got to start somewhere. And with hockey, it's the goalie position, in my opinion, that's very important because you can ride goalies that are hot. You can fade goalies that are struggling, and you'll see some goalies that tend to be streaky too when it comes to their play. You have some guys that are just consistent, like Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay. I mean, he's just awesome. Very rarely are you going to catch him struggling. So some of these guys are just very consistent and spot on all the time. But you've got other guys that can be very streaky. And another key with goalies too is to understand home road dichotomy. You'll see guys that struggle on the road and play well at home. And a good example of that and how you turn it into value from a betting standpoint is currently the situation with the Philadelphia Flyers. And they've got Carter Hart, a young rookie. Now, he's no longer a rookie now, but he's a young goalie. And since he's come into the league, the other goalie is Brian Elliott, a veteran for the Flyers. And the key here is that Elliott, he's pretty consistent. He's been in the league a long time. He's the same whether he's home or road, basically. You don't see a lot of variance with him. But Carter Hart has shown very strongly that he is a completely different goaltender when he's on the road compared to at home. He's probably the one goalie in the league that has the biggest disparity, but I'm saying pay attention to this across the league if you're looking for value in hockey betting. And the way you use this for value is sometimes the markets will say the Flyers are on the road and Carter Hart's not going to play. Well, some general market movement will be, hey, the starting goalie for the Flyers is out. Let's fade the Flyers. All of a sudden, the line comes down. But actually, Brian Elliott would be between the pipes because Carter Hart's out. And actually, Elliott's probably your better bet when he's on the road. So here's an example of getting value because the backup goalie is in there. So that's how you use the goaltending value and put it in your favor, because sometimes the market actually moves the opposite of the way it should. And another key to watch for is injuries in the NHL. And of course, that can happen at the goalie position, but I want to talk about overall too, how we use this. And the thing is, it's usually the top line for a team that's most important, but also those top two lines. And here's what happens. If a guy is out, you might think, oh, it's not a real big deal. But for some teams, and especially if they don't have a lot of depth, what happens is a guy is missing from the top line. So you move a guy up from the second line. Now, this changes the chemistry of both lines. That one injury can actually affect multiple lines because now your top line's different, and maybe your top line was your real strength and you're missing a key player from that now. It's going to struggle, but also you took maybe your top guy off the second line to move up to that first line. Now your top two lines are both impacted. So watching for injuries in the NHL is a key to value and knowing how some of those key pieces fit in. And that goes for the defense as well. Some teams are very strong and rely heavily on their top two defensive pairing. And when one of those two guys is out, especially if he's strong on the penalty kill, it can really cause a lot of problems for a team defensively. So injuries are a key piece to watch out for. And then how do we then take these injuries and factor that into line value? They do affect the lines. And you want to be wary of that as well, because sometimes you can find some extra value. But I want to speak too about general value when it comes to money line betting in hockey, because of course that's what we're talking about here. And here's the key. A lot of times you will find better value with good teams when they're on the road. So I don't like to lay big prices in money line sports, whether it's baseball or hockey. I like to look for dogs or small favorites. So let's say a good team is coming off a loss and facing a poor team. Well, if they're at home, that price is probably going to be too high. The thing is, you lay big prices, it can get you in trouble. But if that team's on the road and they're off a loss, and maybe this is a revenge situation, and you get that pricing right, and say in the 120, 130 range, something like that, that is a great value spot to play. And similar with underdogs, I like to look for dogs. But if you have a huge dog because they're on the road and they generally don't play that well on the road and they're facing a really tough home team, I mean, just because it's a dog and looks like there's good value there doesn't mean it's a smart play. I mean, you got to be careful with the really big dogs. I mean, every once in a while you'll find a good one, but it's not easy to pick off plus 175 winners. It just doesn't happen that much. But there are some good ones. But here's the key. I like to look for, say, a home dog, maybe in a situation like what we just talked about. Let's talk about the Flyers again. Maybe Carter Hart is in goal for the Flyers, but he's on the road. Philly's a good team, so they're going to probably be laying a price. And just say they're facing a team that's maybe just mediocre, but that team's coming off a loss and has revenge against Philly, and then they've got a goalie in there that tends to struggle on the road, and they're plus 120, plus 125, that home team is. Grab that home dog. This is where you can find value, is for situations like this where the market might react one way and you can react a different way and take advantage of that value. So why to choose an expert capper in hockey is because all of those above factors factor into it. And when you live and breathe this stuff every day, when it's your life, when it's your livelihood, it's different for us. We have to factor all these things into it, and we take all those factors and combine and look at it. And I've got a lot of different sources as an example, just like other cappers do, but we have to go to a lot of sources to gather this information. And from day to day, it changes too. Like some days we might have to really dig deep into an injury, and we're really getting down into team websites and finding information directly from sources with the press with those teams. So there's a lot of different things you can use to your advantage, but the key is finding that information, having the knowledge to find that information, and then the proper way to use it in terms of value from a betting standpoint with the lines.
And you know what you're talking about. You've done this for a long time. Even, over the past several years, you've been one of the top cappers on picksandparlays.net. So not just last year, sustained success from Scott Rickenbach, if I can say that correctly. And that's why we have him with us. That's why he's the expert. And that's why we have him on here. Always great stuff from you, Scott. Scott, thanks for joining us.